Welcome back, Sebastian here. So time for my review for the 2023 Belgian Grand Prix. So Leclerc started on pole with Perez alongside him on the front row. Hulkenberg, who was due to start 20th, started from the pit lane for braking Parc Ferme. Several drivers were starting on the medium, including Piastri and both Aston Martins. At the start of lap 1, Leclerc and Perez had a pretty equal start, but the chaos was behind them. Piastri was squeezed a bit into turn 1 by Sainz, and both end up with damage. And both are Piastri dropping right to the back of the field, and Sainz dropping quite slowly. Perez then took the lead into Le Combe, with Verstappen up to turn P4 by the end of that opening lap. So a really good opening lap for Red Bull there. Lap 2, Albon overtook Stroll into Le Combe. And this is where Piastri eventually stopped at the Fangio chicane. Yellow flags came out. Luckily, there was no safety car or virtual safety car. The marshals were able to bring the car behind the fencing without any intervention. Hulkenberg also dropped down. He basically went wide at the Le Combe and dropped a couple positions there. Lap 4, I noted that Verstappen was really stuck in a DRS train. He was clearly on Hamilton's gearbox, but Hamilton also had DRS from Leclerc in P2, so he wasn't really able to get past Hamilton, even though he looked much quicker at that point. Alonso overtook Sainz for P5 at Le Combe, so this is where Sainz really started to drop down, and it was clear from the camera shots that he had this big hole in his side pod, so he clearly had a lot of damage. And Ferrari said he had about 5 points. He was losing about 5 points of downforce. Stroll overtook Norris for P9 at the bus stop. So another team that really suffered at the start of the race was McLaren, of course, losing Piastri. But also the McLaren, we knew that they were going to be at risk if it was a dry race, and they were really just losing track time, losing positions. Stroll easily overtaking Norris at the bus stop chicane. Same lap, pain continues for Norris. Russell overtakes him at turn 1 for P10. Tsunoda then overtakes Sainz for P6 at Le Combe, and at this point it's basically just Norris and Sainz getting past. 6, Albon gets Sainz for P6 at the bus stop, and Norris pits for hard tires. So the soft tire is really not working for Norris, he pits for hards. Verstappen then overtakes Hamilton for P3 at Le Combe, really nice move there for Verstappen, and then Stroll overtakes Sainz for P8 at the Fangio chicane. Lap 7, Russell overtakes Sainz at the bus stop for P9, and Ocon and Bottas both pit for mediums. So Norris was the only driver in the first stint to pit for hards. A bit of an unusual call, but that being said, he did look pretty good, and he did make up a lot of positions. Let's see, so lap 8, Logan Sargent overtook Sainz for P10. Thought that Williams had really good straight line speed, and they looked like they were having a really good time there. Let's see, where are we? So Sainz pits to retire. That's what we thought. He was going to pit to retire, but it turns out that Ferrari sends him on his way. I didn't really understand the point of this at this point. He was down in 17th. He wasn't going to get points. Car had damage. Might as well save the engine, might as well save the gearbox for after the summer break, but apparently not. Albon and Joe both pit for mediums as well. Lap 9 we go. Verstappen gets a second real overtake of the race done, gets a really late overtake on Leclerc to take P2. Really nice move there by Verstappen. Lap 10, Tsunoda pits for hards, and then gets passed by Albon coming out of the pits. Albon, who I think had pit just previously, his tires are already warmed up and good to go. Lap 11, Alonso pits for mediums, pits for mediums again, and comes out ahead of Albon. So Alonso and Aston clearly going for a 2-stop strategy here. Tsunoda overtakes Albon at Le Combe as well, retakes the position. The Williams were struggling a little bit with tire wear here, and that was quite obvious. And at this point as well, Tsunoda's tires are fully up to temperature. Lap 13, Hamilton pits for mediums, stays 4th, and Perez and Leclerc both pit for mediums to cover off Hamilton. Hamilton was also noted for weaving on the straight in front of Stroll. Looked like it was a little dodgy, but that being said, it wasn't bad enough that I think it warranted a penalty, and the stewards agreed. Lap 14, Verstappen pits for mediums. and he comes out right behind Perez. So he actually gained on Perez in that pit stop cycle. And they come on the radio saying rain in 17 minutes at this point. Lap 15, Russell starts to challenge Stroll. And lap 16, Alonso basically passes Russell at the bus stop. So good move there by Alonso and good team play by Stroll and Alonso as well. And Verstappen basically very, very quickly after his pit stop, it was about 2 seconds or so after the gap was about 2 seconds or so after the pit stop. But Verstappen rapidly gaining on Perez after the pit stop and was right on the back of him. In lap 17, he gets the move done for the lead, overtakes Perez at Le Combe to take P1, and was very, very, very early on that straight. He's almost on the Kimmel straight at that point. Russell eventually does get past Leclerc, gets past Stroll that same lap for P6 at Le Combe. Lap 18, according to Science's radio, rain was expected in 4 minutes. So rain was coming, was very soon on the horizon. And that same lap, you could see in the shots of the crowd the shot kind of behind the grandstand, behind at Eau Rouge. You could see the fans were starting to put rain jackets on, starting to put umbrellas up. So the rain was already at some parts of the track. And then Norris pits for soft. So this was a bit of an interesting one. So it was raining, but it wasn't raining hard enough for intermediate tires. So a lot of drivers actually decided to pit for fresh soft tires because those are the tires that have the most grip, which I thought was a bit of a clever strategy. And it was something that Norris, as well as a couple other drivers, ended up doing. Lap 19, Gasly is ahead of, has almost done half the race on soft tires, so he has not pitted yet. Bit of a different strategy call, but I do think it almost worked in the end for Gasly. Gasly overtakes Stroll for P7. Lap 20, Tsunoda overtakes Stroll for P8. And Stroll was basically really suffering on his mediums, losing a lot of time at this point of the race. Probably should have pitted right at the same time as Norris and probably would have saved him quite a bit of time in the end. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, so lap 21, Verstappen says it's raining quite a lot. And it was at some points of the track, it was raining quite a bit, but wasn't enough for wet tires though. Stroll pits for softs, comes out 18, so I thought at this point that Aston Martin had completely ruined Stroll's strategy. That being said, it did turn out a little bit better a bit later on. Lap 23, Norris overtakes Sargent for P16, so at this point Norris was completely off the pace, had already done 2 pit stops in the time that some drivers had done 1 or even 0 in Gasly's case. Let's see where so Russell pits for softs as well. Tsunoda overtakes Ricciardo for P6 at Le Combe. And lap 24, Norris overtakes Zhou at the Fangio chicane for P13. Looks much, much faster than McLaren in the almost wet conditions. Gasly and Albon both pit, and Albon comes out ahead. So a bit of a slow pit stop for Gasly, and he comes out behind Albon there. Lap 25, Tsunoda pits, as well as Bottas and Hülkenberg. Russell overtakes Norris for P8 at Le Combe. Good move there by Russell. And lap 26, Ocon, Magnussen, Zhou all pit. And Stroll is back up into 8th somehow. So I thought that Stroll's race was basically ruined, but then I think all the drivers pitting for the softs, basically doing a very early second stop almost, because of the rain, kind of saved Stroll's strategy there. Lap 28, Hamilton pits for softs, drops down to 5th behind Alonso. Lap 29, Leclerc pits as well to cover Hamilton, also goes on the soft tires. Hamilton easily passes Alonso for P4 into turn 1 that following lap. Lap 30, Ocon overtakes Gasly, and Perez pits for the soft tires. Alonso pits and stays ahead of Russell, so good call there by Aston Martin strategy, keeps him ahead of Russell, gives him clean air on track. Ocon overtakes Albon for P10. Lap 32, Gasly was really starting to chase down Albon, and Albon's race pace was kind of dropping as they wore through the tires, really struggling there with the tires, the Williams. Lap 33, Verstappen gets fastest lap, and Gasly eventually overtakes Albon at Stablo. Really good close racing there for P11. Albon tries to get him back at Le Combe, but doesn't make it stick. Lap 34, Verstappen asked to use his head more. So this was a really interesting radio conversation between Verstappen and his engineer, GP. Effectively, GP thought that Verstappen was using too much of his tire early in the stint, and he was really cautioning Verstappen against using that tire because, if the rain falls, you lose grip, you don't have that tire performance, it's really easy to make a mistake, go off, and the race is all over. But Verstappen was kind of just doing his own thing, kind of managing his own pace. Albon then pits for new tires. Lap 35, Tsunoda was under pressure from Ocon. Somehow Tsunoda holding on in the AlphaTauri. Lap 38, Ricciardo was putting Hülkenberg under pressure, and then Ocon eventually did get past Tsunoda for P9 at Lecombe. Really bold move, really good late move there by Ocon. Lap 40, Stroll told to save fuel, and Zhou overtook Ricciardo on the Kemmel Straight for P15. Lap 41, Zhou overtook Hülkenberg at Lecombe for P14, and as really the laps are winding down, it's only really battles for back markers at this point. But lap 42, Ocon overtakes Stroll for P9. Good move there by Ocon, moves up into P8. Moves up into P8. Lap 43, Ricciardo overtakes Hülkenberg for P16. Zhou overtakes Magnussen for P13. Hamilton then pits again to take fastest lap. And he pits for the mediums, which I guess they had run out of fresh soft tires, so decided to go for the medium. Albon gets Magnussen on for P14. We go to lap 44, final lap of the race. Verstappen takes the checkered flag, and Hamilton gets the fastest lap. So let's take a look at the result of the race. So Verstappen, P1, 8th win in a row, 12th win to start the year for Red Bull, and 13th win in a row. So Verstappen now equals, Fangio, Ascari, not Fangio, Ascari and Vettel for drivers who have gone 8 wins in a row. Of course, Vettel holds the all-time record with 9, and we'll see Verstappen has a chance to tie that record next time out in Zandvoort. Perez P2, good result for him. Leclerc 3rd, final step on the podium. Hamilton 4th, Alonso 5th, 6th Russell, 7th North, 8th Ocon, 9th Stroll, 10th Tsunoda. Amazing points finish for Tsunoda, really good for him. Gets his 3rd point of the year. All of them have been P10, I believe. 11th Gasly, 12th Bottas, 13th Zhou, 14th Albon, 15th Magnussen, 16th Ricciardo, 17th Sargent, 18th Hülkenberg, and your 2 retirements, the 2 drivers that collided on lap 1, Sainz and Piastri. So taking a look at the Drivers' Championship, Verstappen extends his lead over Perez, 314 points for him, to Perez's 189 in 2nd place. So that's about a 125 point gap, very, very solid gap for basically 5 wins there. Third is still Alonso hanging in the 3rd, 149 points, but Hamilton is very close in 4th with 148. 5th is Leclerc with 99, tied with Russell also on 99. 7th is Sainz, drops down a couple spots, 92 points for him. 8th is Norris with 69, 9th Stroll with 47, 10th Ocon for 35, moves back up into 10th. 11th Piastri 34 points, 12th Gasly 22 points, 13th Albon with 11, 14th Hülkenberg with 9 points, 15th Bottas with 5, 16th Zhou with 4, 17th Tsunoda with 3, 18th Magnussen on 2 points, and then Sargent, De Vries, and Ricciardo all on 0 points. So, one before we just close up, let's look at the constructors' standings. So Red Bull first, 503 points, Mercedes second, 247, Aston third, 196, Ferrari fourth, 191. Very, very close between Aston and Ferrari, but Ferrari are looking very, very close to getting that 3rd place. McLaren 5th with 103, Alpine 6th with 57, Williams and Haas both on 11, 7th and 8th, and then Alfa Romeo with 9, and AlphaTauri still in 10th with 3 points. So overall, okay race, not probably the most dramatic, not the most exciting. I think it was very clear from the start that as long as Verstappen got through lap 1 unscathed and there was no reliability problems, it was looking like almost a near certainty that he would win. And I was making bets kind of like jokingly about what lap Verstappen would take the lead. I think it took him a little bit longer to take that lead, but that being said, still a very, very solid result for him and for Red Bull. There was some good overtaking, but not a lot. And generally, all of the overtaking was at Lecombe with DRS, which is kind of how it's been the last several years. All the overtaking is at that one spot. But this year we did get some moves at the bus stop chicane, which was nice. So that's all for my review for the 2023 Belgian Grand Prix. Of course, I'll be back probably later this evening or early tomorrow with my power rankings for the Belgian Grand Prix. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.